Uncle Bob presents Little Red Riding Hood, a musical. A fully fractured fairy tale. Act II. Having found the correct way to Grandma's house from Little Red Riding Hood, the big black wolf took off on his motorcycle. He wore black denim trousers and motorcycle boots and a black leather jacket with an eagle on the back. He had a hopped-up sickle that took off like a gun. That wolf was the terror of Highway 101. The rumble from his engine and the smoke from his exhaust. He knew the way to Grandma's house and now could not get lost. He took off like the devil and there was fire in his eyes. He said, "I'll go 1,000 miles before Grandma can rise." Meanwhile, Grandma had just started the new day at her log cabin in the woods. She was, however, like all grandmas, rather special. There was a little old lady from Pasadena. Go, Granny, go, Granny, go, Granny, go. She had a flower pot with one gardenia. Go, Granny, go, Granny, go, Granny, go. But out and back in a rickety garage sat a shiny orange superstock Dodge. And everybody says there's nobody meaner than the little old lady from Pasadena. She drives real fast and she drives real hard. She's the terror of Colorado Boulevard. Go, Granny, go, Granny, go, Granny, go. If you see her on the street, don't try to choose her. Go, Granny, go, Granny, go, Granny, go. You might drive on past, but you'll never lose her. Go, Granny, go, Granny, go, Granny, go. She's gonna get a ticket now, sooner or later, 'cause she can't keep her foot off the accelerator. And everybody says there's nobody meaner than the little old lady from Pasadena. She drives real fast and she drives real hard. She's the terror of Colorado Boulevard. And Grandma took the water back into the house to fix breakfast. Just then, the big black wolf arrived on his motorcycle. He jumped off the motorcycle and started stalking Grandma's house. With cat-like tread upon my prey I steal, in silence dread my cautious way I feel. No sound at all, I never speak a word, a fly's footfall would be distinctly heard. Tarantara, tarantara. So stealthily the wolf now creeps, while all the household soundly sleeps. Come now, I must eat meat. Truce to vegetation, take a protein ration. I'll vary my entree with a tender grandma saute. Granny comes to the door and says, "I thought I heard a noise." "No, no, all is still on dale and hill." "Rawr!" said the wolf, springing out from behind his tree. "Well, land sakes!" said Granny, and she quickly pushed the flower pot over in front of the wolf, and then took off for the garage. The wolf fell over the flower pot and right into the gardenia, and then, because he was allergic to flowers, he started to sneeze, while Granny continued to hobble around the house and over to the garage. The big black wolf recovered and continued to chase Granny over to the garage, but she reached the side door ahead of him and got inside and locked it. The wolf went around to the big front door to see if it was open, and while he was sitting there, he suddenly heard a brum, brum, and then the front door started to open from the inside. Granny peeled out of the garage in her T-bird straight at the wolf. The wolf jumped to the side just in time, and Granny screamed around the corner, driving off to find the police. Boy, she should get a ticket for reckless driving, thought the wolf to himself. But since she was gone, the wolf decided to revise his cunning plan and wait to catch Little Red Riding Hood when she came to visit. Having escaped from the big black wolf, Granny drove directly over to the police station, where she stopped, got out of her car, and explained the situation to the 3 policemen there. She told them she was particularly worried because her granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood, was scheduled to come over and have lunch with her that day. "Don't worry, ma'am, we'll get right on it," reassured the policeman as Granny got back in her car and drove off. But once Granny was safely out of earshot, the policeman began to sing. "When the wolf is not engaged in his employment, or maturing his carnivorous little plans, his capacity for innocent enjoyment, is just as great as any honest man's, Our feelings we with difficulty smother, when constabulary duties to be done, Ah, take one consideration with another, A policeman's lot is not a happy one. Ah, when constabulary duties to be done, A policeman's lot is not a happy one, When the enterprising wolf's not out a-stalking, When a predator's not preying on his prey, He loves to wander in the forest walking, And sit and fish and pass his time away, When the wolf is finished cooking up his supper, He loves to lie a-basking in the sun, Ah, take one consideration with another, A policeman's lot is not a happy one. Oh, when constabulary duties to be done, A policeman's lot is not a happy one, Then the policeman started to slowly walk off, but in the wrong direction, and they kept changing places instead of actually getting anywhere. Finally, Granny drove back to see what the holdup was. "You idiots," she said, "you're going the wrong way. Follow me." And with that, the policeman fell in line behind Granny's car. Meanwhile, back at Granny's house, the wolf took off the disguise because Little Red Riding Hood would recognize it, and then he hid it in a corner where no one could see it. Then the wolf carefully climbed up the stairs to the bedroom area and found Granny's bed, and then he took off his false teeth and put them in the glass, and crawled into the bed and pulled up the covers so that he'd look like Granny. Just then Little Red Riding Hood arrived and called out, "Hello, Granny, I brought you some chocolate." "I'm upstairs with a cold and a bad sore throat," said the big black wolf. "I'll come right up, Granny," said Little Red Riding Hood as she started to climb up the stairs. But when she reached the top of the stairs, she was astonished by the size of the big black wolf's eyes. "Jeepers creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Jeepers creepers, where'd you get those eyes? Gosh, all get up, how'd they get so lit up? Gosh, all get up, how'd they get that size? Golly gee, when you turn those heaters on, woe is me, got to put my cheaters on. Jeepers creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Oh, those weepers, how they hypnotize. Where'd you get those eyes?" "All the better to see you with, my dear." But then Little Red Riding Hood said, "But, Grandma, what big ears you've got!" "All the better to hear you with, my dear." "But, Grandma, what big teeth you've got!" said Little Red Riding Hood, looking at the false teeth in the glass. "All the better to eat you with, my dear," said the big black wolf, jumping out of the bed at Little Red Riding Hood. But the big black wolf had to stop and get his false teeth while Little Red Riding Hood ran for the stairway. Then he sprang after Little Red Riding Hood, but he tripped on the candy that she had dropped and stumbled while she ran down the stairs and out the front door. "I've got you now," he said as he followed her to the front door and out into the front yard. Little Red Riding Hood rushed out the front door, followed shortly thereafter by the big black wolf. But just then Granny arrived with the three policemen in tow, and the three policemen chased the big black wolf away. Then they all joined in a rousing chorus of "Who's afraid of the big bad wolf, the big bad wolf, the big bad wolf? Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? He's nothing but a poodle." And Little Red Riding Hood and her grandma lived happily ever after. Little Red Riding Hood learned that not all wolves are dressed in sheep's clothing. Granny learned that sometimes a classic T-bird and a lead foot do mix. The big black wolf learned that even though grannies are old and frail, they can still be very dangerous to tangle with. The constabulary, well, they just went down to the local pub to have a pint and called it a day. The end.